Hey guys, it's Bobby Legs, and welcome to another State of the Collection live stream and collection discussion with our friend Penny here, also known as BlackWomanGamer. You probably have seen her. She's very active in the chat when I do some of these State of the Collection live streams. She always has great things to add, and I was super excited. I threw it out there one day. I think it was during a live stream, right, Penny? That I said, you got to come on and let's look at your collection. And you were like, let's do it. And so we started emailing each other back and forth for a few weeks, and we set up a time, and we met yesterday to test everything out to make sure that there was no hiccups on the stream. And so Penny, let's tell me what you're wearing on wrist, and then tell me a little bit something about yourself before we jump in.
Well, probably I'll talk about this watch when we get to the slides because it's one of the ones that is that's on there. So I guess I'll save that
Okay.
what am I wearing part. But let's see. Well, I live in New England. I'm an educator. So Penny is my nickname. I mean, I use BlackWomanGamer. I used to, a long time ago, want to have a gaming channel. And I am into games, but I don't play them as much as I used to. So that's why I have the channel name. And I kept thinking to change it to something watch related, but now that I've posted so many comments with that handle, BlackWomanGamer, I'm like, people won't know who I am. So yeah. I'm just kind of committed to it. And so yeah, it doesn't seem relevant to watches, but I have a lot of hobbies, and watches are one of the many hobbies. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's say hello to some of the people on the stream. Daniel's waving in. Winding Watches, what's up, man? Design Ateliers checking in. He just cracked 1,000 subs not too long ago, man. He's on fire. Congratulations, Design.
Cheers.
My man Joe, Peter showing up, Tennessee Mike, Mr. Random Rob, Almond Reviews, Almond's here, Six Killer 2121, and Kevin S. An actual Black woman gamer. Looking forward to see. That's what Kevin says. Awesome. And guys, please feel free to put in the comments what you're wearing. I am wearing. I now that you are saving what you're wearing because you're gonna show it, I'm gonna save what I'm wearing
Okay.
because it's in solidarity with one of your pieces. So I'll save it. So Penny, this is how I love to start. I like to find out how did you get into watches? Like, what was your introduction to watches and watch collecting? Please share with us.
I knew you were going to ask this question, so I thought about it.
Good.
And, it just seems kind of seamless. Like, I've always worn a watch, like a lot of people that talk about watches and gotten into them. I don't have any, like, significant memories of wearing watches as a kid. I did wear, like, the Casio data bank, the one where you could put the names and numbers in, or the calculator watch. I had stuff like that. I had a Swatch. I don't know. And then as through college and later, into adulthood, I always wore watches. They were probably Fossils, Kenneth Cole, whatever you could get at Marshalls or something like that, or in a department store. I would wear them. And when the batteries died, I would just, toss them and go get another one. But I always had a watch on. In any picture that you can see of me as a kid, I always had watches on. And it wasn't really until, maybe like 3 years ago or so, that I really started getting into watches as a hobby. I would say before that, I was kind of interested in watches from a fashion standpoint. So I really love to dress up. I'm kind of dapper is my style. And, I discovered my style, maybe about 10 years ago, really having a lot of fun with like tailored menswear and just kind of getting all into it. And I started wearing Invicta. So I really clearly do remember having this huge, I still have it. It's like a 45 millimeter Invicta watch. And I realize now that I know a little bit about watches, a tiny bit, that it is a Daytona replica. It's like a black Daytona replica. And it's really cheap, but I loved that watch. And it went so well. It was on a bracelet. So it was kind of transition in my head to switching from watches on a strap to watch on a bracelet. And I realized I loved that thing, that chunky Invicta on a bracelet. And it just, watches and other things that I'm into, like fragrances, they all went together with the fashion.
Huh.
And
Okay.
so I think as I started developing my style more and more, the door to watches just started to open. And I remember I was on a trip with my mother, and I remember I said, look, on this trip, we were outside of Vancouver. It was beautiful there. And I said, I want to get a watch on this trip. It just came out of nowhere. I hadn't packed a watch. So I kind of felt, not having something on your wrist felt weird. So I told my mom, let's get a watch on this trip. So we went shopping. And the first thing I said to the sales lady is I said, I want a watch that doesn't have a battery. I know there are watches now that don't need to, I just can't deal with this battery thing that every year I got to replace this battery. So she showed me a solar, I think it was a Solar Citizen, and then a bunch of Seikos. And I remember, because I was into cologne, that there are different tiers of cologne. And one of the things about fragrances is eventually you probably want to get into fragrances that are made by companies that only make fragrances. So it translated to me to know that certain companies that make watches, that's what they do, were better, perhaps better tier, watches, that they're quality because they make their movements. That's what they do. They specialize in watches. So Seiko and Timex and Citizen were watches that were on my radar. I chose the Seiko, and I would say that was down the rabbit hole. And it was a dressy, gold-plated Seiko that I still didn't understand how it worked. It died whenever I wasn't wearing it. So I would take it off for a couple of days, and then I'd go pick it up. And I just didn't understand why that watch was stopped. And I thought, it starts to work as soon as I fiddle with it and set it. It's probably fine, but I kind of thought it was a lemon. And so then I started researching, why does this watch keep stopping? It doesn't have a battery. I thought it just worked. So that's how I started to get educated about mechanical watches from the Seiko that I also still have, but don't really wear. It's too big for me now. It's just a big, like a 43 millimeter dial. It's gold plated, and I'm not really into that style, but I still have it. So that kind of opened the door. I started researching Seiko, got into the channels and the websites and everything. And then, like I said, I've been in deep for
you certainly have. I've seen you. I've seen you in other streams too. I see you comment. Yeah, you're just like me. You've just jumped head first into the pool, haven't you?
Full in. I realized it was a thing. There were other people out there. There's a lot of information. I'm a geek about a lot of things. So if I get into a hobby, I really get into it. I want to read everything and know everything. And of course, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know and understand. Right. So it's an addictive hobby in that way. And then I don't have cable anymore. So I just hang out on YouTube, and any given day. I was telling you, I'm so grateful for this community because there's a live stream every day. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 in a day. And I'm like, how great. It's like watching, a classic old television show or something like that. Like leave it to be on again.
So, and sometimes and sometimes Almond does 2 a day too. So you can.
I love it.
I'm teasing you, Almond.
Let's see a lot of Almond videos too, and you guys are on the streams together. It's fantastic.
Let's see what else people are wearing today. Rob is wearing the Seamaster. He's wearing that all month. Winding watches, DJ today. Yeah, the 41. Very nice watch. Joe's wearing the Kadoki. That's a beautiful watch he has. I don't know if you ever had a chance to see or check out Kadoki, Penny, but very interesting, awesome German watch. Planet Ocean for Daniel. Let's go down here. Kevin's wearing the SPB 127. Peter's got a Casio, 1990s Casio on. Peter likes those vintage any digital and digital Casios and Aegis and whatnot. He just sent me an Aegis to take a look at. I think I'm saying that correctly. Design is wearing the Seiko 6139. Awesome. So let's start jumping in to the presentation. Let me get in here and open up the window. And let me know when you can see it.
I see Tennessee Mike says he got rid of Netflix. That's bold. I got rid of cable, but I'm still hanging on to Netflix even though I don't watch it. I watch YouTube, so I could probably get rid of all the subscription services.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could get off, but you know what I do? I rotate. I'll have Netflix for a little while, then I'll go to HBO, then I'll do Showtime, back to Netflix.
Mhm.
It depends on what series we're into. But anyway, so we have this the first slide to keep it in the family, and please share on what we have here.
Okay, so once I started getting into watches, I did my research and started, going down the rabbit hole, figuring out what watches were good starter watches. And you find all those videos, and lists of like the top 10, entry level or enthusiast
Sure.
watches. And
Yeah.
so I just ate all that up and I was like, yeah, great, more, and I started with Seiko. But I went into Orient. That Timex that you see there, that was it's an Expedition quartz watch. I had that for a long time, and battery was dead, and it was on a nasty leather strap. And I kind of cleaned it up and put it on something else, replaced the battery. But just start watching all these videos and experimenting with a bunch of watches that were more affordable and really enjoying them. But very quickly, I realized that again, I'm pretty obsessive, all in kind of person. So I started to find my sweet spot, which wasn't here necessarily, but I realized that there were other people in my life that I could give the gift of watches to. And so,
Right.
my brother, that middle picture there is for his birthday a few years ago. My wife and I got him an partially empty watch box. And then that's an Orient extra large. I think it's a Mako and a Bulova chronograph and a Citizen, Eco Drive and a G-Shock there. So we just made him a little collection, a mini collection.
That's awesome. You gave him a partial box with some,
Yeah.
I mean, partially full box. Like you're kind of like saying, all right, man, now it's your time. You got to start collecting watches because we love doing it.
Exactly. We got him started and set, and he's also kind of smartly dressed guy and into fashion, has his own style. Though he comes to me for fashion advice, and I give him my advice. But we gave him this box, and he partially filled it, and he's all in. He's since then gotten into other watches and start filling his own box up. And then the smaller one there with the Casio and the Expedition, we gave to one of our nephews. So he was, I think, turning 10 or 11. And every time he comes over, he sees my watches or he sees us watching stuff and reading about watches. And he just took to it, just like that. Little kid loves it, always wants to wear whatever I'm wearing. Can I wear your watch? Can I wear your watch? So we think he has the bug already at a young age. And we got him some watches that he loves. And so one of the things we did was kind of clear out those watches that we bought early on and we give them as gifts to people, or we even shop for folks thinking in a certain price range, what do we think they would like? And that's just a way that we enjoy the hobby, is giving watches and experiencing them through other people, even if we don't particularly like them anymore or want them, because you can only wear so many. So we love that part of it. So that's kind of where a lot of the enjoyment is researching watches for other people.
Kevin, as I do the same with my older watches, given to your kids and friends, etc., and get them hooked in a hobby. Yeah, great way to introduce the love of watches. Great gift idea, Random Rob says, for people. Watch box with empty spot. Yeah. That is awesome. That is awesome. Which is a better gift, empty box, watch box, or a watch box with a watch inside and the rest is empty?
Yeah. Empty watch box. For me, an empty watch box is, I think, I would take that because I'm always looking at storage, at different options for watches. But I think a watch box with the watch inside and the rest is empty is the thing that we're going for with most people, is get them hooked and then get them to fill up their own box with what they like.
Absolutely. Okay, so then let's jump into Seiko. So you jumped into the Seiko SKX pool.
I did. That's one of the things that comes up. You're looking around, you don't know much about watches. You're going to find Seiko, and you're going to find everybody seems to love the SKX. And I dove right in. I got an SKX 009J, and I got this one. And they were fine. You know, I wore them. I liked them. I think I understand why people mod the SKX, because there's always a little something that nags me about those watches that I want to change. Like that one has weird color hands. It's like a pinkish color and a gold around it. If I could change the hands and is it the Rehat or the Rehat, the ring inside, that is orange also, and it's like a
chapter
pinkish
ring,
orange. The chapter, if I could change that color of that and the hands and maybe the bezel insert. I don't know. You know, there's a few tweaks to that. I like the orange, but I don't love everything else about it.
Right.
It's almost there. I think the SKX, the Seiko 5 orange version, like it's not the orange monster, but it's like the newer Seiko 5. That orange looks great. This
5KX.
one, 5KX. Yeah. I keep it because it was early in my journey, and so I kept my 2 SKXs. I often stare at them and think, man, I would love to either get into modding, which I don't think I have the patience or dexterity for, or, you know, I just think about how I probably would have chosen other Seikos, because there's a lot of great Seikos out there. I just didn't know them at the time, and I just settled on the SKX. But I think the Alpinist would probably be more my style, but we'll have to see if someone that we know gets an Alpinist, and I'll be able to experience it through them. But I kind of have a love-hate relationship with SKX. I guess that's what I'll say.
You know, I get that. You know, I bought an SKX. I had it because, you know, that's what I thought I had to get when I got back into watch collecting about a year or 2 years ago. I gave it to my neighbor. Then I realized, oh man, I kind of miss it. So I got it again. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start modding. So I got the modding bug, right? And it is hard. Like, you know, modding, changing the crystal is one thing. But when you go in there and start messing around with hands, man, that's tough. And I couldn't even imagine swapping out the movement and changing the date wheel. Not for me. There are so many other people who are much more talented and have much more patience than I do. But it is a little fun. And you know what, Penny, you should if you have the time, just try it. Just at least change the crystal or the bezel insert, because those are kind of things that, you know, are there's a lot of videos out there. Mark from Long Island Watch, even Rob has some videos on how to do that, and you just need some patience. I need the kids to be in bed, you know what I mean, and I need absolute quiet. But it's fun. It's fun for sure.
I may try it. I may try it. I think I'll break it, but it was probably worth a try at least once. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's where the SKXs are. I actually got the Pepsi one from Mark at Long Island Watches as well. So he's got great videos, just super informative stuff. And I'm really curious about the Islander. I know that a lot of folks have liked his changes to that design. And I think I would too. Again, you know, some of the things that annoy me about the SKX, I think he has addressed, you know, in his Islander watches. So
yeah, I've owned a couple of Islanders. I think they're, like you said, he's addressed some of the things that you would like to change in the SKX, and they're really well done. So I definitely would recommend. So here we have your Seiko, the 009 that you had mentioned, and you also have a Seiko Samurai. So you started. It seems like you started going down the SKX route, and then you started dipping your toes into other Seiko divers. Tell me about this.
Well, in that case, the SKX is mine, the Pepsi, and the Seiko diver, the Save the Ocean, is my wife.
Oh, okay.
And I would say the reason I include that picture is because she loves that watch, the Save the Ocean, the Samurai, and I think I would like that more too. If I could just trade in my SKXs and get something more in that vein, even though it's big, it's a very satisfying dial to look at, and the hands are better. You know, I could see even in other divers, there are choices in Seiko that I would like better than the SKX. But, you know, my mentality with watches is for the most part, I have a keeper's mentality. So I'm not selling, I'm not trading. We're keeping, especially our core collection, but even watches like the SKX, it's kind of around to remind me of where I've been in the hobby. Yeah. And so it's not appealing to kick that out and get another diver, but I do get to enjoy her Save the Ocean, which I think is spot on. Like that's that's the one that I would choose over the other ones, the SKXs.
So now you've opened up a little bit of a can here with your wife having a collection, and you guys. Now it sounds like you wear some of your wife's watches now. So now you have like the most ideal situation that most of us would love to have. Tell me about this.
Well, I totally get that. I've heard a couple of the shows, the Watchdog podcast, and he had a couple of guests on there. Well, I think
Yeah,
Craig and
Craig.
his
Yeah,
society loved hearing them talk about being in the same household. And it's similar for us. When I got into watches, my wife was right behind. She was right there. Like, this is great. I think I started her out with a birthday gift of a few watches, a box and a few watches, and she was hooked. And so she's into it now, and we do have separate collections and different wrist sizes, slightly different wrist sizes. So, sometimes we have to resize if we're swapping. But yeah, I can wear what's in her collection that appeals to me, and a couple of the watches that are coming up are her watches that are like honorary members of my collection, where I will wear them on a given day, but they're definitely hers. And then she says, before this, she said that I don't share very well, so that's her right there.
That's a
She
big.
says I don't share very well, and so in fact, she doesn't wear my watches as much as I wear hers. So I don't know. We'll have to test that out. But yeah, it is great. We get to decompress by talking about watches. The only downside is that you two addicts in the household, so we have to temper each other and say, hey, it's not the right time. We get on a schedule for when we're going to add a new acquisition, and we have to take turns. So
Sure.
I can't just go get what I want all the time. We've got it. Like she just got a watch recently, and it's going to be my turn down the road. And so we just swap, the schedule out for who gets what and when. But it's still great because at least there's someone else I can talk to other than the comments and chat on YouTube. There's someone else who I know who is also into it. So.
Okay, so moving on, we have another, kind of like another rite of passage, right? So I know when I was collecting or starting to collect again, and I went through my Seiko phase, I started looking into Hamilton, and I've owned a Hamilton khaki field. I've never owned the khaki king, but I could have easily went with a khaki king. So tell me about this choice here.
Well, a funny thing is I wish I'd gone with the khaki field. And so, this was an anniversary watch. We were both just getting into it, and it was our anniversary was coming up. I said, let's get a watch, and then now I want to commemorate everything with the watch if I can. It's like, barely an event. Having an anniversary is a good thing to commemorate. And it was early on, and I said, let's get a Hamilton. Everyone says it's so great. I was still kind of dipping my toe into things, and I do like it. It's definitely going to stay. It's not even, again, we have the keeper's mentality for our collections anyway, but it's not, again, like the SKX. The only thing I really don't like about this is the numbers being cut out. So you have the day, spread out across the top of the dial, and the 11 and the 1 are eaten into, and that drives me absolutely crazy. It didn't at first, but now I cannot stand it. And so
Interesting.
it looks fantastic on natal straps of all sorts. So I love to wear them on natal strap. And the bracelet I don't love, so I wear it mostly on natal strap. It also looks pretty good on leather too. So it's just one of those, as you say, rite of passage watches. Found it because it's talked about so often. But even within Hamilton, again, I probably would make different choices now, just design wise, for exactly what I would like. But keeper.
Nice.
Only one addict.
That's awesome. Let's check in some more of the comments. Can't go with the Hamilton khaki field. Nope, definitely not. Strat Monster. Agreed. Random Rob says best thing I did was buy my wife an Apple Watch. She is done. LOL. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me set this up. Let's move on to. Let's get Rob out of here. And boom. Okay. So now we get the Seamaster. Now we're starting to see a different level from you here. So we go to affordable, kind of like breaking into the hobby, watching a lot of videos, watching a lot of influencers, and a lot of people making some suggestions on what watches you should get, and us drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Now, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think and I think you would agree with what I'm going to say, but you need to go through these steps in the beginning to really find your way. And so we have a Seamaster here. So tell me about this one.
Well, that's a Seamaster chronograph, and it's my
Yep.
wife's watch, but I bought it for myself initially, and I wanted some bling. It was exactly that. You're kind of warming up to the price points and figuring it all out, and I wanted something. I mean, I already had my first luxury watch when I got this one. This isn't exactly chronological, but I wanted something a little flashy. And so I went for this. It was really eclectic. It's different. It's a 90s Seamaster chronograph. So you can't really see in those pictures, but it has the tiny little wavy dial, the old Seamaster dial, before it was the laser etched one, I guess.
I can see it.
Little tiny waves. And then it's got that pop of red, and it's yellow gold on the outside, but it's also a titanium case. And the thing about that started to bug me was the fact that it was it's a very thick case. It's almost like 15 millimeters because it's a, Seamaster chronograph. So it's a huge case. So it's very thick. And then it's also brushed titanium. It's yellow gold with this darker titanium on the bracelet and the case. And I think I would have just preferred a regular two-tone yellow gold steel combination, and that would have worked for me. But it's just a little quirky, a little weird in terms of its looks. It's not classic enough. And as I started to discover, I like really classic looking styles and kind of safe with just a little bit of pop to it. So that wasn't for me. And then so I sold that watch. We're going to find out that I had some really quick and painful lessons about selling watches.
Because I was going to say, because you're the keeper's mentality, that doesn't really go with that.
I sold that watch because it was driving me crazy and I wanted something else. So I sold it. And then my wife starts looking at watches and starts flagging this same watch in her history of just like, oh, this is possibly for the future. And like, we just had that watch. Like, but she was flagging, like, because there's a couple of variations of it, like all titanium one, a rose gold and titanium. And I was like, look, I can go back to the guy I sold it to because I sold it to a brick and mortar store. I ended up going back, bought the watch again. It was the watch enthusiast's walk of shame when you just sold a watch and then you go back begging for the watch back. So very soon after, I got the watch and I said, okay, it's your watch now. I don't want it. But again, it was one of the lessons. So I don't even really consider that watch being sold because it was such a short period of time. Like I sold it and I went back, bought it back and gave it to her. But it was a lesson learned that we're probably keepers and we are. So it's her watch. I wear it occasionally. I really like looking at it, but it's not my jam.
So a lot of jealousy on the chat. Winding watches, which my wife enabled my addiction. Desire 68 Frogman. My wife enables my addiction. I just wish she enhanced my wallet at the same time. Yeah, that's a good one, Mike. That's definitely a good one. Okay, so now let's step into Rolex.
Yep. So that's the OP39.
Mm-hmm.
Also my wife's watch. This is the last watch that's hers. So this is also my wife's watch. And
it's a beautiful watch. Beautiful.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, it's really pretty. And I got that for her. She had a big milestone career-wise. So I got that for her, and it was kind of to commemorate that. And she loved it. She really actually, I knew that she liked the Yachtmaster. Rolex has the Yachtmaster rhodium dial with the blue highlight, same color pattern. Mm-hmm. And that was out of the question at the moment. So I felt like the color scheme of this was similar enough, even though it's a completely different watch. And I took a gamble that she would like it, and she does like it, and it was a good experience buying that. I bought it from a Rolex AD before it was discontinued. And it's a perfect size. I don't know why. I don't know what Rolex is doing, kind of creeping up in the sizes there. but that watch fits both of us really well. And it's beautiful in different light. You know, you can get different colors out of it. Very satisfying watch.
Yeah, I mean that dial is just a stunner, and I just love those little blue pips at the hours. Gives it another level of depth.
Yeah.
Just like the blue with the little green pips on the 39 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that little touch, and also shocked that they discontinued it.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's go back into the chat. Joe likes LOL Walk of Shame. Uh, Kevin has classic rebuy on watch. Truly a deranged fan.
I know. And, you know, the funny thing is jewelers and watch dealers totally get it. So
Yeah,
I'm like in my head and saying, can I buy that watch back that I just sold you? You know, and they totally get how nuts it is because they've been in it for, you know, their career. So
right.
it's not too bad, but it makes you feel pretty nutty. That's why I was saying to you in the comments, when you downsize in your collection, make sure you're really ready to let it go, because if you're
Oh
into
yeah,
like me, it's going to drive you crazy, and I can't handle it for my own sake. So
Rick commenting on and complimenting on the beautiful OP. Yeah, it is absolutely a beautiful watch, Rick, for sure. Um, you know, a few years back, you know, before, because I always get distracted, right? I always like fall in love, and then like a couple days later, I fall in love with something else. But that 39 millimeter OP is such a great watch, and I should have pulled the trigger on it when I did, because now, of course, it's, as we all know, it's discontinued. So jumping into dueling
yeah,
Speedmasters.
that OP, by the way, is so comparable to the Black Bay 58 in terms of how it fits and how tight,
Hmm.
like how perfect it feels on the wrist. So, you know, again, I'm not sure about I'm sure the 41 millimeters or whatever they went up to are fine too.
Yeah,
But that OP, it's like the perfect one watch. Everybody's like, you know,
yeah,
talking about all the time what's a great one watch. You could wear that in any context, I think, and
yeah.
it's so amazing. So anyhow, yeah, the Speedmasters is kind of where the story really gets interesting, I think, for me, because I got my first luxury watch. So after the SKXs, now we're kind of going in a linear time frame. So after the SKXs and the Hamilton, I got the Speedmaster. That was like the fourth watch that I bought getting into the hobby. And I chose it partly because I told myself, I'm not a Rolex person. Like, why is everybody, I was starting to read the forums and there's so much hysteria about Rolex. And I was like, I'm not a Rolex person. I'm an Omega person, if anything. So I sold myself on the Speedmaster, and boy, I absolutely love it. I know people get a Speedy and they say everybody should experience it, and then it's kind of that watch that goes in and out. And no, I don't know how many people absolutely love the way it looks, but the design of it is so crisp, and it contains so much information, yet it's so simple that I think it's probably how people feel about vintage Submariners or something, that they just love it. It fits the platonic ideal of a watch design for them. And for me, even though it's a 42 millimeter, it's a little big at times. I still wear it. I love it. It's my favorite watch, hands down. And I also sold it. So I sold it. So what happened? This is the last and the final lesson that I learned about selling watches, which is why I'm not, why I have the keeper's mentality and will never sell another watch, is I got an opportunity to get another watch, and I didn't want to sell the Speedmaster, but it was easy to sell. So again, I sold it at a brick and mortar store. I sold that, and I sold the Milgauss GV Black, killing myself about that too. But I wanted to move up, and I justified it because the Milgauss was kind of heavy on the wrist with Faraday cage. Anyway, sold it, and immediately I think I almost had a nervous breakdown. Like, honestly, I just was like, this is absolutely crazy. I didn't have a panic attack, but the emotions and the energy were so intense that it taught me that lesson. And again, I went to buy it back. And unfortunately, in that case, the guy had already sold it. I was like a
Wow.
couple weeks later, and I waited a couple weeks. And every day I regretted selling it because I never really wanted to sell it. I just wanted something else more, and taught me that lesson. And within 2 weeks of selling it, I bought a new one. And I said, look, this is because that one was pre-owned. I was like, this is going to be mine. It'll have all the memories. Tried to tell myself it's okay because I'd only had it for a year and I sold it. And never again. That was absolutely it. It taught me that I'm not a seller. If I have a watch, I'm going to attach to it. I like it. It works for me. And in the case of the Speedmaster, it's still my favorite watch. And then eventually my wife got the one that you can see the open case back is the Hesselite sandwich. So, you know, a lot of people have the sapphire sandwich where the front is sapphire, but hers has the Hesselite crystal and the sapphire on the back. And so it's that little, you know, difference there where you still get the domed look on the front. And it's a 90s, it's older, you know, it's a 90s model watch. So it's got, you know, some history on the case and dings and stuff. And she really likes it. So I can honestly just stare at those two Speedmasters for like half an hour and zone out just looking at them. That's how much I really love the design of the Speedmaster. And with that moment, that brief moment when I sold mine, I even convinced myself that I'm a Speedmaster collector. I thought, what were you doing? You're at heart, you're a Speedmaster collector. I don't know what you're doing with these other watches. That was your true love. So I don't know if that's true. I mean, we probably are going to get more Speedmasters in the future. But, you know, we have two nearly identical ones, and it's totally cool. It totally works. Like, I just love that watch so much. I can't even really explain why. I just like all the information. I love the chronograph. That's definitely a complication that I like, but I just love the way it looks, you know?
Rick, gotta have a Speedy or two or three.
Yeah. It's definitely hit on for me. I don't love all the variations of I kind of just like the classic moon watch and maybe certain variations like the trilogy and the Ed White, of course. And I don't really love the colored dial ones where they go all off and Omega, you know, has experimented. But I like the classic looking one. Yeah.
Matching watches would be awesome. Yeah, I've always thought about doing that. You know, my wife, she's not as into watches or actually at all. And I had this fantasy of like getting us matching like Cartier tanks, right? Or Santos. I'm sorry, Santos. And I was like, look, honey, what do you think? And she's like, I don't like that watch. I'm like, oh man.
Oh no. Yeah, I wish I had some tips. I just got lucky that she likes it. There's certain hobbies that she absolutely is like, no, I can't follow you there. I don't like that. But in this case, she just liked it, and it was not a hard sell. So I can't give you any tips on maybe there's some watch that she'll happen to like, and then you'll get that way.
I'm hoping one day she kind of gets into it. I don't want her to get totally into it, but I'm hoping. Yeah, I want her to get totally into it. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so next is now you're going to. So you had the OP Rolex. You got a little taste of Rolex, right?
Yeah.
Did this come before the OP or after?
This came before the OP.
Okay, this came before. Okay.
So, yeah, I did a little bit out of order because her watch kind of came after some of these. But after the Speedmaster, this was my next watch.
Wow.
And so yeah, I it's kind of a long story, but I'll just say that I really wanted the all black GMT. So what I realized after I said, well, I'm not just an Omega person, I'm not a Speedmaster collector. After I came back to earth on that, I realized that I like the GMT function, and it's practical because I travel a lot and I have a lot of meetings with people in other time zones. So I sold myself on wanting a GMT function watch, and I sort of settled on the all black, the all black ceramic GMT-Master. And they, even before it was discontinued, I actually got the call from an AD to go and buy that watch. And at the time, I was like, you know what? I spent enough money on watches, this month, and I said no thanks. and I turned it down, and it just because I was still in the sticker shock stage, and I couldn't wrap my mind around going for it at retail, and I had no idea that it was actually that crazy or that hard to get them, and that I, probably if I wanted the watch, I probably should have gotten it. I didn't really know that fully, I just thought, okay, it'll come around, so they're gonna have it for a while. And then, of course, and then I had another chance to buy another one, but they discontinued it. And I settled on the Explorer 2 because it was more affordable. And actually, the salesperson, when I bought that, had a black GMT. And we both stood there looking at them. And she says, you'll be able to get a black GMT. You know, it's a newer watch. Rolex is going to keep making them. You'll get that down the road. But this one, you know, she was sort of selling me on in good condition, you know, because they're discontinued. You probably want to get this one. And I went for it. She didn't even try to upsell me.
Yeah.
I got it. I absolutely loved it. And then 3 weeks later, Rolex discontinued the all black GMT. And so that's kind of haunting me in the back of my mind that, you know, it's kind of one that got away. But it actually worked out because I travel all over the world with that watch, and it's so under the radar, especially not on the bracelet. Like I wear it on a strap, I wear it on NATO straps, and I share it with our nephew. You know, let him wear it, around the house, and it's totally cool. It's under the radar. It has that GMT functionality. It's such a beautiful, clean dial, and it helped me see that I actually do like these Rolex sports models, both pre-ceramic and ceramic models. You know, the 40 millimeter. I don't like the 42 millimeter Explorer 2 because it was too bulky on my wrist. It was too boxy, but love it. It's a great watch to travel with. Super fun. It's my travel companion. Whenever I go on a trip, I take that watch. It's the only watch I take. I take it in like a handful of straps, and then, you know, been lots of places with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that white dial just pops. I love that. I'm glad that you got that watch. I know you turned down another one that got discontinued, but that is one of my favorite models in the Rolex lineup. That is now obviously discontinued, but I think you did good on that one, to be honest with you.
Great. Yeah, it's not the Swiss only dial. It has a super luminova, so I kind of wish it had a little bit of patina in it, but it still you know, it still has lume, so that's good. And the only downside to that, it's the 16570, is the bracelet. You know, those older Rolex bracelets, it's not that they're cheap, they're just light. You know, they just don't feel substantial in my hand. It's comfortable and secure. It's just the bracelet, the older bracelet, kind of leaves something to be desired for me, but it looks the best on the bracelet. So I do wear the bracelet and I swap it out. But if it was not for the bracelet, it would be an A++ watch. I still love it, but that's the only small drawback. If you're a bracelet person and you wear a watch on a bracelet, you have to decide probably if you like that older style Rolex bracelet, because, you know, it's got the not hollow in links, or it's non-solid in links, and so it feels very light in the hand. That's the only negative for it, but it's a beautiful watch otherwise.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to the watch that I'm wearing tonight, because I know you. So I have my original Black Bay 58, so I'm wearing this in solidarity with you.
All right.
So, you know, tell me about. I mean, you don't have to tell me, but I mean, tell me about this watch.
You know, it's great. I absolutely love it. It is fantastic. You see my puppy there. I'm like covering up his good stuff there because he's all pretty cold in the picture. But, you know, I convinced myself that I wanted a diver after the Explorer 2. Even though the Explorer 2 is really rugged. And I was still thinking about maybe getting a sub, and we were on vacation, and you couldn't find these, but we were on vacation in Florida, and there's so many shops in the Miami area. Like, you could just spend a week just going watch browsing, I think, you know, there. And I kept seeing those 6-digit subs, those 5-digit subs, the pre-ceramic subs, and they weren't doing it for me. It was just missing a little something. And then I saw this Tudor Black Bay 58, and it just has that just enough pizzazz, you know, with the gilt dial and the red pip and the very nice sturdy bracelet. You know, I think this watch is cheaper and it feels better, and it kind of hits on a couple of other things for me. Then it was a no-brainer. I actively chose it over getting a sub just because I like it that much, and it's
snowflake hands.
Yeah. And I didn't think I didn't like the snowflake hands at first, but now I think if you get into the Black Bay watches, you come to either tolerate them or adore them. And in my case, I adore it. I love that chunky hand. And it totally works. It works for me. So I love that watch. It's fun to wear. I like that it doesn't have a date in the you know, COVID, pandemic world, it is nice working from home to have a date. But in most cases, I just like the symmetry of the dial, that it doesn't have a date and it looks very clean. And I do kind of want a pre-ceramic sub just to compare them now. I think the old versus the new, it would be an enjoyable kind of activity to think about the changes, or vintage Tudor sub. But love it. Very good.
Awesome. Let's see here. Let's look at some of the comments. Rick and his wife both have Reversos. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Design, him and his wife have matching Movados and matching Apple Watches. Very, very cute. And then Design's also lusting after a Movado Zenith. That's a vintage chrono. Very good looking watch. I forget that Movado had a pretty good history back in the day of watchmaking. So let's jump into another classic, and it is the GMT-Master II, Rolex, the Batman. Or is it the Batgirl?
It's Batgirl, yeah.
Batgirl, yeah.
So, as I said, I wanted that ceramic GMT, the all black, and once it was discontinued, I've had really good relationships or just experiences with Rolex ADs. I know that not everybody has good experiences with them, and I know that Rolex's formula for success in marketing in this moment is pretty obnoxious to many people, and probably rightfully so. People don't enjoy what's happening with these sports models, and I really just didn't know anything. I didn't know any better. I just would go to ADs and we'd go out because we don't really live near one, but we would drive out, go for lunch. We live in New England. All the states are close together. So go over here, go to lunch, go browse watches, talk to people. And we did it enough that I think the ADs kind of saw us as just this odd pair. It's like two queer women, we're watch shopping, and I'm just chatty and talking all day. And somehow it kind of worked for us, and we built relationships, and I got the call for that. That's what I sold the Speedmaster for, and that's also what I'm wearing today. That's what I sold the Milgauss and the Speedmaster for, and it broke my heart to sell those watches because, again, I was like the sticker shock, and I wasn't really ready to move it in and not move something else out. And when I moved it in, I just enjoy it so much. I can say with full enthusiasm that I'm a Rolex sports model fan. I'm a fanatic. That dial is so, even though it's boring, it's the kind of classic boring that works for me, kind of like the Speedmaster. But then, the white gold surrounds on the indices have a little bit in the right sunlight, they pop, and so it's a little shiny. And then the bezel is super shiny, the ceramic bezel, the Jubilee bracelet. It's like a shiny watch, and that delights me. And then it's also simplistic. It's kind of bold, and it got subtle colors there with the blue. That is just like the Speedmaster, really hits on to what I like. Classic with a little bit of play, a little bit of fun maybe. And it wasn't worth selling the Speedmaster for, as I bought it back, kind of immediately. The Milgauss is the one watch where I haven't gotten it back. And I think it's okay. I think it's a nice lesson that, again, I still regret it in my mind. I'm not a flipper. I'm not a trader. I have to keep the watches that I buy. It just doesn't work for me. And the Batman is sort of the trade for that then, in my mind, that I didn't go back and get the Milgauss GV. But yeah, I love it. It's so fun to wear. I've been wearing it for 2 months, so I challenged myself. A lot of people are doing the watch fasting and wearing the same watch, and I had worked up to doing a watch for each month. Pre-pandemic, I was rotating every week, and then once the pandemic started, I started doing once a month with the watches, and we don't even keep them here. We get them out and store them, the safety deposit box, and would just have one watch, and we would do it for a week or now for a month. And this time I'm wearing the GMT for, it's going to be 2 months in a few days. And I actually think I might be able to push it to 3 months. I really miss my other watches. it's kind of seeing the pictures of them. I'm like, oh, I missed that one, and I want to wear. I'm sort of itching to wear them, but it quells some of the obsessiveness and the anxiety about just kind of constantly researching watches to just wear one watch for me. So I think the longer I can go with a watch, it kind of works in terms of rotation. But I would say a month is kind of the sweet spot in terms of rotating for me. I'm just now seeing how far I can go. Can I go 3 months with the BLNR?
Yeah. Awesome. So Joe says he wants to hang out with you too.
Hey, well, we're not doing much these days.
Joe, you got to be careful with Joe. He'll rub off on you. He's got some really eclectic taste in watch brands. It's awesome.
It's totally opening my mind to see how cool some of the watches are. A lot of the independents, like
Rolex baby, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about. Let me get Colin's comment out of the way there, and we're at our final slide tonight, and the IWC Mark XVIII. So tell me about this pilot's watch.
That's the pilot's watch, and it's my last. So I have five watches, and it's the last of the five, the most recent one. And I wasn't planning on getting this watch. It was kind of my turn to get a watch. Well, I don't actually think it was my turn, but I jumped the line, and I was like, I'm going to get a watch, and I was going to get a Railmaster because again, I still have a soft spot for Omega, and I like the Railmaster. But every time I've tried on the Railmaster, it just doesn't look. Something about the sizing of the current Railmasters is just a little off. And this particular AD also had IWC and a bunch of other brands. And I did know the Spitfire, and I liked it. I just couldn't get past the fact that it's on a NATO strap. I like NATO straps, but I also like the bracelet. Right. And when I tried on the La Petite Prince, it was amazing. The blue dial is super cool. And bright and sunbursty, and in the right light again, it's super shiny, and that dazzles me. And it's got a nice engraving on the back. But the thing that kind of sold me on it was the legibility of the dial. I don't have anything like that is just like you can totally tell the time from like a mile away. And that bracelet is so cool. It's really comfortable, and it has quick adjustment in the pusher, like the clasp on the bottom has a button that you can push to do quick adjusting on the fly, and it's just a well-designed bracelet. And so I alternate that on and off the bracelet, and the way those links are, it's just a really cool bracelet. And it was kind of a surprise, and that was kind of the first time where I was like, hey, I'm going a little bit off my own beaten path here, and choosing a brand that it doesn't really have a lot of hype that I know of. But I just saw it and liked it, and it worked, and it's different. I think I'm still kind of going to gravitate back to some of the other things that like maybe more Speedmasters or probably a few Rolex sports models. But the IWC is that one outlier that I was surprised that I like, and it's a keeper too for that reason.
Ricky with a super chat. Oh, thanks, Ricky. Hello, Bobby. She knows her. Love her. Yeah, there's no doubt that Penny knows her stuff. Now, I like that choice of the IWC specifically because I love watches. I've come to the conclusion in the last like 6 months or a year that I love watches that I can tell the time. Just like I have a Zinn 856 UTC, I can spot that the time on that watch from like on the other side of the room, and I could tell the time, and it's just incredible. It's amazing. Ricky with another super Ricky, thanks, man. I mean, it's cool. Thanks, man. My Spitfire came on leather. It was also an option. So yeah,
the Spitfire is still a great dial. It's beautiful. The matte dial.
Yeah. I told her this. So design is like saying have her as a regular on your live feeds. I told her when we went the other day, I was like, I could tell like right off the bat, Penny, that you would be really good at this, and that, she should have her own channel one day. If she ever, all you need to do is actually start making videos. But, Penny could come on. I told you, Penny, you can come on anytime you want. If you want to talk about something, you're more than welcome. But now, this is the part where you know, I've been looking forward to this part of the stream all night. What's next? Because I kind of know where you're going, but tell me.
Yeah. Well, the way I found your channel, was your review of the Zenith El Primero,
Yeah,
and you're one of the only people that had like a long-term review of the El Primero with the tricolor dials. And
thank you.
oh my gosh, that's how we started interacting, because I
Yeah,
love that watch, and I was watching video, and it's been in my list for a while to get an El Primero. I love the chronograph, love the story and the history of Zenith, and the only thing is it sort of changed because I like the revival case better, the cushion case. I think it's A3, the A3, what is it?
84,
The
A384.
A384, the A384. Love that one, and on the ladder bracelet. And so I think that's in the mix. It was going to be my very next watch, and it's gotten a little bit supplanted by potentially some other watches coming in that I don't have as much control over. I mean, I want them, but I just don't know when they're going to come. And so the Silver Snoopy 3, we're on the list for that. We're the first on the list with an
Wow.
AP for that watch, because I knew it was coming out. Reading the forums, Omega forums are amazing, and they're really good entertainment. If you're into Omega and you read those forums, they are absolute. She says I love to talk. Yeah, they're absolutely to die for. So I've been reading the Omega forums and knew the teasers about the Snoopy 3, so we were on the list for that. So whenever that comes in, the Silver Snoopy 3, that's got to happen. So I got to hold off and save up, and we can't buy anything before then. And then when Rolex released the new watches, I told AD that I know, look, I really want a Kermit, and he said okay. So I don't know what okay means. I don't know when okay is going to happen, and I'm okay not knowing exactly when, but I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. And so that ties us up for a while, So
Right.
whenever that happens, that ties us up, and the Zenith will come at some point. But my goal is to really never get past 10 watches, and I'm already at 5. So, when I hit 10, that's just it. I don't think there'll be more enjoyment for me out there, even if I like other watches. If I choose correctly with the watches that I really enjoy, and stay with them for the long haul and build those memories and that history around them, I think it's going to be diminishing returns for me to go beyond that or swap out.
So no one in, one out. You're
No,
okay.
not at all. This is it. So the 5 are staying, and then there's a few slots after that. And I love my favorite game in the world is imagining those 5 slots and what it might change weekly. But once a watch takes a slot, it's just that's it. So we'll have to enjoy it, and I can live vicariously through other people and learn about watches through other people. And my wife, still has her collection that she'll be building. But for me, I'm a nut about selling a watch and seeing it go. And I also don't want like 50 watches. I'm very particular about the rotation and enjoying them. So yeah, so I think that's next. Those 2 allocation watches at some point, whenever that happens, and then maybe a Zenith, and then any given day, those other slots change. I know that those are 3. Well, actually, the Silver Snoopy is not going to be my slot. We've already discussed it in our household. It's going to be kind of either a shared watch or my wife's watch. So technically, it's not going to eat up my own slot. But still, we talk quite a bit about possibly the next watches.
Random Rob is suggesting get some titanium squares. Random Rob is a big G-Shock square fan as well as I am.
I wish I could get into G-Shock. I love the one we got for my brother, and that was kind of a surprise. But for me, I don't know that I'm a G-Shock person. I think I wear those SKXs to like the pool and a lot of things that I would wear a G-Shock for maybe. But I can vicariously enjoy the G-Shock through other people.
Daniel suggesting, but your wife can have 60 watches if you stop at 10.
She can do whatever she needs to do, for me and my collection. No, she has a cap on hers too. I think she's
60. Okay.
And it's a lot easier to satisfy with the watch consumption than me. So I don't think we'll max out. But technically, there are more than 10 to be able to think about in the house.
Oh, wait, there's always technicalities. Desire says, Penny, let's check on you in a year, see if you actually keep it to just 10. So there's the cynic in there. Cynical.
You can hold me accountable because you've heard me say it here that's the number. I don't think I'm more than that.
Rick is then suggesting Longa or Moser. Okay, so natural progression. I like where Rick is thinking. That's also I'm a big fan of Moser. If I had a dime for every time, okay, this is my last watch. Sure, I could buy another watch, right?
I know.
All things will change in the future. That's what she says for now.
None of you are any help with this. That I'm cutting it off, but yeah.
Desire is going to get you. Design is going to get you an empty watch box, I think. So you have to throw it.
I know we don't even keep them in a watch box because we put them in a safe. So I like the watch box for the affordable watches, but the number that it holds is not going to be able to cap us either. Because that's kind of irrelevant. Watch rolls are nice for putting them away, but what watch do I hate?
What watches do you, or dislike, or is there anything that you were like, nah?
I don't know if I have strong aversions to watches. I think there's features that I don't like. Like I don't like the 4:30 or the 4 o'clock date window. The Zeniths have that, but I'm able to deal with it. And I don't like it when the numbers are cut out. That really drives me crazy. If a sub dial eats part of the number, I know the ID guy did a great video on this, and there are not a lot of choices sometimes for how to situate that. But I can't stand it. If I see a half of a number, it's just, oh my gosh. So I think those are the things that I don't like in watches, but I don't know that there's any like brands that I hate or anything like that. They're just certain ones that I don't love in the same way.
All right, now these guys are starting to test you. Okay, MVMT. Do you hate them or not?
I would not ever. No, not anymore. I'm indifferent to them, but I wouldn't have them. And I discourage, like my brother from going down that route or Invicta. I have a soft spot for because again, that was my first bracelet watch, so I can't hate them. I like Hublot actually. What is it? Is it the Fusion? Some of those bold and crazy looking, some of those Hublots are. I don't know that I would wear them, but I get with them. I actually like Grand Seiko. I do like Grand Seiko. I can't see it in my final 10, the cutoff 10. But I like them and appreciate them. And I'm pretty simple, so I like the snowflake dial. And there's that GMT, that like creamy colored.
Yes, that's a beautiful watch. Yep,
that's a great watch. So I like it. Yeah.
But you already have 2 GMTs though.
I do. I tried to talk my wife into getting that GMT to Grand Seiko, but then
that's a bigger watch, right? Is that like 42 mil as well, or something like that?
Yeah, the sizing doesn't look great for us, I think, but I do like it.
Awesome. Penny, remember when I told you in the beginning before we came on that it's gonna go really, really quick, and here we are, just over an hour, and you did a great job describing your collection. Describing how you got into watches, your philosophy. This was very, very enjoyable. I think people on the chat loved hearing what you saying, and they definitely want to hear more from you. So you either got to come back on my channel, or you got to start something new, or you got to do some live streams yourself, because I think you got some people who'd be interested to hear what you had to say. So.
Thank you so much for having me. We both watch the channels and your streams, and like I said, every day, there's great content here on YouTube for us, and we really enjoy it. So I appreciate everybody who's putting out such great content and having good conversations and giving us something to do, especially in these quarantine days, where a lot of them are similar. It's refreshing to have this hobby and these spaces to be able to turn to and just kind of think about this cool hobby. So thank you.
Yep. So a lot of people expressing their thanks for us tonight. And so we'll call it a night. Penny, thanks again. Thank you everybody who came on the chat. I'll be back again in a couple of weeks with another State of the Watch live stream. And for Penny, me, guys, have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.